What's up, everybody? May 23rd, Seattle, Washington. It's been a while since I've been in Seattle. I am super stoked to come up there for a show. You can get tickets now at romplacone.com. Seattle, May 23rd. See you there. What's up, everybody? The wait is finally over and totally over. Left at Wall is available now, right now. You can get Left at Wall on Apple TV, Google Play, YouTube Movies. You can get it on demand. You can buy it on DVD. The wait is totally over. Just type in Left at Wall on your search bar on your smart TV, and you can find a bunch of ways to get it. You can watch it now. Again, that's Left at Wall, wherever you get your movies. Episode 83, Barbra Dillon. Barbra Dillon is a comic book publisher and creator. She's the co-founder of Fanbase Press, a comic book publisher and geek culture website. I saw her speak at a panel at WonderCon and wanted to know more about the publishing niche that she and her husband have built. Upon meeting her, I found out we both grew up in Pittsburgh around the same time. Please welcome to the show, Barbra Dillon. Barbra Dillon, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely, Ron. Good to talk to you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I want to get into everything, but I really want to start at the beginning because one thing we learned about each other is that we share a hometown.
We do.
So let's start with your origin story.
Absolutely. So I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Went to college as well at, it originally was Point Park College, and then transitioned to Point Park University while I was there. Which is where I met my partner for Fanbase Press and now husband as well. And when I was in Pittsburgh, I really grew up in theater. I have an older brother who was an actor, and I grew up backstage essentially my entire childhood and was always around really creative individuals and just grew such a love of the creative arts of all mediums. And so for me, I came out to LA knowing that I wanted to help creative people do what they love. No matter the medium, no matter what that looked like. I came out and went to law school for a brief period because I thought I needed to know contracts, negotiations, all of that. They have entertainment attorneys for that, so you don't actually have to do that.
It sure helps if you do, though.
It does.
It really helps if you do.
It does. But when I was in college, I had interned at a company in LA called Mosaic Media Group, which is talent management and production. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. And so when I left law school, I did so because I had immediately gotten a job at the same company and wanted to take advantage of that opportunity. And I did that for about 3 or 4 years, but honestly got very jaded by the Hollywood industry and was finding that, there were so many creative people out there who had so much talent, but weren't being given the opportunity, that there were so many barriers out there. And honestly, that's where I found comics and the entire comics industry. And it allowed me to be able to not only share people's stories through publishing, but also just simply promote people and the rising tide, raises all ships. Because when we started Fanbase Press, it was really out of this need to help people and to share stories. Whether that was through our publishing wing or through our media wing, we really got the chance to do exactly that. So that's kind of me in a microcosm.
Yeah, no, all right. So there's a lot going on there. All right.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Pittsburgh. You went to Point Park. What did you study at Point Park?
I was like the lone academic major. I double majored in political science and history. And my path was always set in stone of law school. And, I wanted to be the West Wing. I wanted to be that when I was young. But yeah, that's where I started. And as you probably know, Point Park is a huge theater program,
Yes.
a wonderful program and dance program as well. And so I was, again, had the opportunity to be around such wonderful creative individuals and to really continue to foster that desire to be of help.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how, and I think I always knew this, but ever since I've been gone, like it really hits me just how much of a college town Pittsburgh is.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
it's just there's just so much like It really hit me when I actually performed. This was after I no longer lived there, but I performed at Chatham University,
Oh, okay.
and I realized I had never even been on that campus before in my lifetime. Like I'd just never been there, and
Yeah.
I was just thinking, wow, this is just so yeah. It's like Point Park, Carlo, Chatham, and those are just the small ones, and
Yeah.
then you got Carnegie Mellon, Pitt, Duquesne. I mean, it's pretty wild when you think about it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's changed so much. Even like I had mentioned, I graduated college in 2005, question mark. And having been through that process of converting to a university, Point Park has really purchased so much of the downtown area compared to what it was when I started. It's just such a profound change. I mean, some of it makes me sad. I actually got married at the theater that used to be in Oakland, the Pittsburgh Playhouse.
Oh,
That's where we got married. And was so heartbroken when it was torn down. But they have a lovely new theater downtown, so that really keeps, all of the student body downtown as well. So, but to your point, yeah, absolutely. It's such a change and is such a college town with so many colleges and universities in the area.
my sister got married in Oakland.
Oh,
I
really?
did not. We got married out in California, but my sister got married in Oakland. I
Oh,
mean, it's
nice.
still, I mean, I went to high school in that neighborhood and, I spent a lot of time. I was pretty lucky. My cousin is 9 months older than me.
Okay.
So he was a freshman at Pitt while I was still a senior in high school.
Yeah.
And that was a very fun year for me.
I can only imagine. Yes.
Because I went I was in high school like right in Oakland, so I would
Yeah.
just pack a bag and then just go over to his dorm, and
Yeah.
those were some fun times.
Those were the
But
days. Yeah. My brother, I was a senior in high school and he was a sophomore at Point Park. He went to Point Park as well. So I empathize and echo those same fun experiences senior year of high school. Yeah.
that's the best. Well,
Yeah.
especially since like with theater people, there's like a somewhat ageless thing to it
Yeah.
where, that there will be sort of like a cluster of people where, they'll kind of let you hang out and you feel really cool and grown up. And and then you read The Perks of Being a Wallflower and you're like, oh, this is my life, to an extent. But
Yeah.
well, that's cool. So what brought you out to LA then?
It was really between New York and LA. Initially, when I was going into college, I thought, I'm gonna go to New York and do law school there. But in my later years, and when I started to research universities and where I wanted to go, I just wasn't feeling New York. I think as a young person, I had these like bright lights, big city of what New York would be. But when I went to see, like, do I actually want to live there? And my brother had lived there for a period as well. It just wasn't for me. I wasn't feeling it. And so, when I went to do the internship in LA, I was like, well, I think this is it. This is where I need to be, and this is where I want to be. Yeah.
It's funny. I had the same experience with like New York versus LA
Yeah.
because like as a comic, you eventually comic being stand-up comedian, not comic being the stuff you publish, but like
Yeah.
but like as a comic, you eventually face this, or most of us like kind of face this moment where it's, well, am I going to stay on the road forever? Or am I going to go to New York or LA?
Yeah.
That's actually kind of changing now with technology and whatnot. But that was kind of the way it went for a very, very long time, and that was sort of the decision I made some years ago. And I would spend time in each, and I slowly, even though I always thought I'd be a New York guy, I kind of connected with LA more and just
Mhm.
had more opportunities there, and so ended up moving to LA. And now I feel like whenever I go to New York, I say, I love New York, but I'm glad I wound up in LA.
Same.
But I feel
Yeah.
like had I made the other decision, I would say the same thing, but the other way around.
Oh, interesting.
I feel
Okay.
like it's just like, because they're both just amazing creative
Yeah.
places. So I
Yeah.
feel like if something would have been different and I would have wound up in New York, I would go to LA to visit and I'd say, I love LA, but I'm glad I wound up in New York. But because I didn't, I say it vice versa whenever I'm in New York. Oh, I love it, but I'm glad I live in LA.
Yeah.
But I feel like, yeah, it would just be the other way. I'm walking around New York and I'm like, oh man, I'm really so thankful for the LA weather and so thankful that, we got a little bit of space. You could walk to the beach and blah blah blah. But I feel like if it was the other way around, I'd just be
Yeah.
like, oh, I am so thankful I don't need to live in a car at Los Angeles. We got efficient transportation. Yeah, who
Yeah.
knows? But
Yeah. You acclimate to where you are.
so what got you? It sounds like you kind of got into comics a little later then. So what happened
I
there?
did. Yeah. So growing up, my parents owned a sort of a mom and pop convenience store in Carnegie. And so that's where that was like my second home. I worked there, when I was 16, all the way until I went to college. And they always had one of those like old-fashioned spinner racks with the comics on it. But the only ones that I could ever remember that we had were Mattel's Barbie comics, scintillating read, and Archie comics, and then sporadic issues of the X-Men to the
Oh
point
my
where like
God.
it
I
did not
remember
occur.
these racks, by the
Yeah, and
way.
it did not occur to me because of how sporadic they were that it was like a sequential storyline. I always just thought they were, these stories that you would pick up somewhere and not entirely be following what may have happened before, and it just didn't make sense. I was a huge X-Men the Animated Series fan. I would watch that religiously, but the comics just never made sense to me. And so cut to college, and I met my now husband, and he introduced me to comics, and it just kind of blew my mind that there were so many different genres and that it was sequential storytelling and that it could be a singular graphic novel or an ongoing storyline. And there was so much that it blew my mind. And when I left TV and film and was kind of, looking for what I was going to do and wasn't quite sure because this had been the goal for so long, it was when I started reading comics again and we started to make our own graphic novel, that it really it just connected with me. And there was something about it was this like amazing ability to be able to tell stories without the necessary funding of doing a short film or doing, something on a grand scale. It was just about the art. And it was you really do have to love it because there's not a lot of money in comics. That it felt like theater again. It felt like people who wanted to tell stories and could work together as a team and be able to share their voice with the world. So there was something that really clicked about it.
Well, so before we get into fan base, I was wondering if you could expand a little bit. I mean, you said you got a little burnt out when you were working in the industry, but
Yeah.
can you expand on that a little bit? Like what were some of the
Yeah,
specifics there?
absolutely. So, did you ever watch Entourage?
I haven't actually.
Okay, that's good. Great. I'm so glad.
Okay.
Um, there's a company in Entourage, like the agency, that's called Miller Gold. And I worked for Gold Miller. So if that's any indication of what my life was like, it's pretty much what you see in Entourage. It was the belly of the beast working for sort of the highest powered comedians, directors. I mean, some of our clients were like Vince Vaughn, Jim Carrey, Jay Roach, Judd Apatow. So it was Sacha Baron Cohen as well. So it was a lot of these folks, and it was working really within the belly of the beast. And it was so much more about the business of things and packaging things and the personalities pre-Me Too, that really I grew such a distaste for it. And it was nothing about art. It was nothing about working together and, the love of artistic vision and sharing stories there. And that's not to say that there weren't diamonds in the rough and really thoughtful, kind people who work in the industry. But overall, my experience, which is certainly not a singular one, was just very toxic and very negative. And so it was very much not for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that I feel like that's pretty relatable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where, and it's hard to kind of like quantify because like I feel like you and I could exchange just industry horror stories. And it's like, on one hand, well, we knew that was what we were signing up for. But
Hmm.
on the other, it's just, yeah, but it still sucks.
It was
You
awful.
know?
Yes. Yeah.
So, what is Fanbase Press for anybody who doesn't know?
Yeah, so this is our 15th anniversary. Fanbase
Wow.
Press is a GLAAD award-winning and Art Eisner and Harvey Awards nominated publishing company and media outlet. We are a boutique publisher in that we generally publish about one comic series or graphic novel a year, and we take it from start to finish. So we work with the creative team through developing the idea, through the production of, if you have an entire team or if you need to find an artist, letterer, colorist, etc., packaging that, working through the production of the artwork and the storytelling. But then also everything after that, the pre-press of getting it ready for print, working with the printer, marketing, sales, distribution, going to shows, absolutely everything. So for us, it's very important that we and the creators recognize that this is a long-term relationship that will be working hand in hand. And because of that, we're very selective about the stories that we take on because we want to make sure that, we're giving all of our resources to this creative team, to this project. So, and on the other side of things, because we're only doing one book a year, we still like to highlight and spotlight as many creators and stories as possible. So we have a staff all across the country that works on daily reviews. We do a lot of interviews, both written, audio, and then, a lot of on-site like red carpet interviews or convention interviews. And then we have a whole podcast network that we've been doing as well since the beginning. And for us, it's a way to really support other people, to spotlight creators. And we spotlight, again, creators of all mediums. We do interviews of video game creators and theater, actors, directors, writers. We try to really focus on everybody. So it's not specifically just comics creators that we're focusing on. We really want to, do as much as we can to help everybody in the creative arts.
That's amazing. And so, how did this begin?
It started, so I had left TV and film
Mhm.
and was a little trying to find my path. And we initially, we started to do, as I'm sure you can share this experience, we started to try to do little projects here or there. But
Now,
as we would
were
work,
you with your husband at this point? Like when you say we,
yeah,
is that okay?
yeah, we came out to LA together, and we would try to do like short films or something here and there. But given that we weren't generating or initiating those, chances are like 95% of the time the projects fell apart. And we were like, well, what if we started to do something? Like, what if we started and initiated these projects? And we started to work on a short film that we shot. And while we were happy with it, we wanted it to be more. We wanted to tell more of the story. And, film is expensive, even short films. And
Hmm.
so we thought, we all love comics. What if we adapted this into a graphic novel? And that's exactly what we did. But the creative and artistic process of creating a graphic novel is a long period of time. And we had some very helpful advice from a colleague that said, while you're doing this, while you're working in the art, build your community. Each of you write a review a week of something you want to do, or, do some interviews. And through a friend of a friend, we had been very fortunate that like the first interview we ever did, I interviewed John Bernthal, who was like season 1 Walking Dead. So it was like super early in his career. But he had been doing theater and doing a lot of stuff. And that really kind of took off from there. Like we started doing a lot more interviews. We started doing reviews. Folks were coming to us to be contributors to the site. And then we got to release the graphic novel. And we ended up doing a second graphic novel after that was in-house. But after that, and since then, every book that we've put out has been a submission to us. So we've been super fortunate to just have a lot of creative folks come to us to collaborate.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I just I mean, I just really love publishing and everything about it. I worked in book publishing for a little while myself when I was
Yeah.
first out of college. and have never really found my way back to it, at least not in like a longer form sense. But what drew you to the production process itself? Because well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to be like you kind of really embrace that and excel at it. So has that always been the way you've been, or?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm definitely your type A personality. I'm a super organized OCD person, and I was always when we were doing TV film projects, I was always the line producer. I was always the one, keeping us on task and getting your set list ready and like absolutely every aspect of that. So for me, for Fanbase Press, I'm both the editor-in-chief of the company, but then I serve as editor on all of the books that we put out. So chances are, if you're working with us, you're working with me on a day-to-day basis, and I'm, creating your timelines and communicating with you and working through the production process and like all of the things. So for me, I think the organization of it just makes sense, and that's what I gravitate towards. It's probably why I went to law school as well. But yeah, for me, it just kind of makes sense.
I wish so bad I was more like that. I'm just almost just envious, right, of everything you're saying. Like, I'm like, oh man, you're basically the person that knows all the important shit that most other people don't.
But I
That's
envy
like,
your creativity. I envy those folks who like when I meet an artist and my daughter is this way. I can see that she has a picture in her head and it's all about just getting it, it's
mhm.
just getting it on the page. And that fascinates me. I do not possess that myself. So I am in awe and envious of folks who have that ability.
Well, did you have to kind of rewire to the different process of it all? Like, did you have to, or did your husband have experience like that? Like, what was it like when you go, okay, we're putting out a print medium now. What's the deal with an ISBN? What's the deal with,
Oh yeah.
selecting the right printer? Like, what was that kind of learning curve
Yeah.
for you?
It was absolutely trial and error. And I will be the first to say that, we fail more than we succeed. But I think that's where you learn. I mean, when we were doing that first book, we had Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics and Making Comics and Josh Blaylock's books on, how to publish an indie comic book. And we read them verbatim, like page to page. We were like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is the process we'll follow. And those were invaluable tools for us. I think every step of the way, and still to this day, we have really focused on ensuring that we're not biting off more than we can chew. And so we really want to make sure that when we're doing something, we're doing it to the best of our ability. We're, honing our skills as much as possible, before we take a chance on something entirely new.
Do you feel like storytelling has, well, let me think about how I want to phrase this. Do you feel like the true essence of storytelling has changed in recent years?
Oh, that's an interesting question. No question mark? I don't
It's a
think
fair
so.
answer.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that, but I'm happy to dive in more.
No, no, no. I mean, because, and the reason I asked that question, especially specifically to someone like you,
Yeah.
is that, something like a comic book, something like a graphic novel, there is still this long form storytelling that
Yeah.
exists there. My answer would be pretty much the same as yours. No
Mm.
question mark. Honestly, I mean, if we're being right now in the contemporary moment, my answer would be, I'm just going to ask Barbara what she thinks. Like that would be, because that's quite literally what I did. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I ponder that question a
Mm.
lot, especially when I'm at something, like a WonderCon where we met.
Yeah.
And when I see that there is still a lot of people out there who still love books, and even like the physical ones. And I myself have kind of evolved some on that, because I do read on my phone a good bit just because of the convenience of it.
Sure.
But but I kind of wonder, how has storytelling changed? Has it
Mm.
changed? In what way?
Yeah.
Um, I feel like all we can do is embrace it and learn
Mhm.
how to adapt because, and I've not encountered anything so far that has really completely discouraged me. I
Okay.
mean, some people that they get I'll give you for instance, like I was having a conversation with somebody about just vertical films,
Mhm.
which fancy way of saying you hold your phone up and down. But I was having a conversation with someone about vertical films, and they were sort of, expressing a distaste for the
Mhm.
whole thing. And my response, I was like, look, it's a new medium that's interesting, that has potential, and I feel like if you can't tell a good story in 2 minutes, then I don't know, maybe you're not that good at telling stories. It doesn't have to be in 2 minutes, but if you want to work in that format, do something that's appropriate.
Yeah. I think I think that's the interesting thing. If I were to parse out the question, I think that storytelling will always be universal, and I think that there's always a sameness to it, but I feel like that makes it sound really boring, like a pejorative or negative take on it. And that's not in any way what I mean. What I would say changes though is the method or manner by which we can do so. I mean, like you're saying, storytelling as a mode of communicating has certainly changed over millennia. We used to, originally there's so much about language, but about pictures. I mean, some of the earliest comics could be cave paintings, that we could take. And to the way that we share stories with one another, whether it started as, those cave paintings or it started as just a verbal communication, sharing of history, of ideas with one another. It evolves. It evolves based on each medium. I mean, specifically within the comic book industry, there are ways to tell stories. I mean, a lot of stories, like you said, with vertical film, vertical comics right now, and vertical scrolling is a newer method to share stories. So I think that the way that we tell them can change. I think the art of storytelling is always going to remain intrinsic. It's always going to remain the same. But the method by which we tell stories can certainly change, evolve. And maybe I'm incorrect in saying that. Maybe even the way that we communicate stories, or stories themselves change based on the method that we're telling them. In comics, maybe by breaking out of a 9 panel grid format allows you to tell stories in a completely new way that's more than just the method of it. Maybe you're experiencing the story in a completely different way. So yeah, I can certainly be wrong, but it's definitely interesting to see how the method of storytelling evolves. But I think telling stories will always be this wonderful, universal, artistic experience, that really impacts all of us and changes us and allows us to process things, to grow, to learn, to empathize with each other. And it's just really beautiful.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's like you see these things that I guess kind of give me a little bit of a shot of hope because it's people are still following series. They're
Oh
still
yeah.
seeking out film. Um there's still I think a lot of Gen Z is still into audio podcasts and things
Oh
like
sure.
that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so it's one of these things where it's like, yeah, things are changing and there's more stuff, like just so much more stuff. And yeah, there are people who just consume an awful lot of TikTok or Instagram
Hmm.
Reels or whatever else. But yet there's still this universal thing amidst people of all ages that they're going to dive into the White Lotus from start to finish or whatever else. And they're going to watch this movie. And so part of me's like, yeah, it's still pretty much the same, I think. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that we will always really value that ability to connect either in seeing our own story told or being able to connect with a similar experience or being able to connect with a lived experience that's completely outside of our own. And, there are certainly benefits to both of those, but I think that I think that's the universality of stories is our ability to feel and, to feel seen. And I think those are both wonderful things.
Well, as far as comics go, what is sort of the common attitude that you see and also your own as far as AI goes?
No AI.
No AI.
It's just hard stop.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's really unfortunate. I mean, the genie is out of the bottle. So,
Right.
Conversations in terms of like, well, how do we limit it or what do we do? It's really incumbent upon creators, but also above that, publishers, editors, studios, networks, etc., not to utilize it. Yeah, I mean, Fanbase Press as a whole, both on the publishing side of things and on the journalistic side of things, it's a, absolutely no AI policy, hard stop for both. It's really unfortunate to see the impact that it's already had and the continuing impact that it's having. And for us, it's just a no AI policy for us.
Yeah, I can imagine I can imagine in that world that makes sense. I mean, it's such a broad thing, AI, that I like. I mean, I'll just give you like a for instance. There's some amazing audio tools
Oh, I'm sure.
that
Yeah.
that can literally. I mean, it can separate background noise and things like it, and it's absolutely incredible. Now, you
Yeah.
still need an audio mixer or an engineer using those tools because
Sure.
they're going to use them properly, but it will take them a couple minutes to do something that even with all the other technology would have taken a couple days. So I think that those tools are absolutely amazing and I love them.
Yeah.
However, like in the comic world, the idea that I mean, they're just scraping other people's art and then just making this hodgepodge of art, and I can imagine like that's incredibly concerning. And I
Yeah.
personally, not to get like too like insider specific, but me personally, the only like I can see it if you're making a deck or something and you want to give someone an idea of what you're going for, but that's about it. Like that's as far
Yeah.
as I've never really, I mean, yeah, I've never done that myself,
Yeah.
but I have like sent a few things to like other artists where I'm like, this is sort of my idea, but like that's it. I think it can
Yeah.
be useful, for people who can't draw what's in their head,
Sure.
to tell somebody who can, like, and to give them, be like, this is sort of the vein I'm going for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's yeah,
It's tough.
it's got to be kind of wild for
Yeah. It's,
people in your world.
it's interesting. That you brought up the music example. I actually heard, I want to say it was about a year ago, maybe, a really interesting interview on NPR with Sheryl Crow. And she was talking about her concerns within the music industry and similarly what, some of those tools are doing and how it's smoothing voices in a way that just takes the artistic merit out of things for the artist, and that there's this beauty in the lack of symmetry, in the, just the human voice and how it changes, that you're losing by applying some of those tools or, by creating something wholly without a singer, and so I empathize. It's really unfortunate how it's affecting all creative industries. And it's, I think, more unfortunate that I think a lot of creative industries, especially TV, film, video games, how much the money being infused into it is coming from technology firms, the tech bros,
Yeah.
and that is what is running a lot of Hollywood, a lot of the big entertainment industries right now is tech money, which really just cares about the monetary value and the artistic value and merit of things is really deprioritized in such a huge way. And it's disheartening. It's devaluing the experience, the time, the just the value of the creators themselves in all different aspects of every industry. And it's, I don't know, late stage
No,
capitalism, it's so
absolutely.
unfortunate. Yeah.
No, I totally hear you. I think what Cheryl Crow was referring to and what I'm referring to are kind of two different things, but
Sure.
I totally get like that
Yeah.
part of it. I was talking more like the film sets. Like there's
Okay.
tools where like let's say I filmed a scene and there's more background noise than I would
Sure.
like.
Yeah.
There's tools out there that you can separate all of
Hmm.
that stuff, which is something
Yeah.
you can already do with like just a great mixer, but
Sure.
it just makes that job so much easier. Now, if you don't have somebody who knows what they're doing running that
Yeah.
tool,
Totally.
you're probably going to completely F it up and lose half your dialogue or something like that. But it can be done in a fraction of a time because of
Sure.
these tools. Those are the things that I'm optimistic about
Hmm.
and think are great.
Hmm.
The other stuff that just strips the creativity out of it,
Yeah.
that's the stuff that's a concern.
Right.
That's the stuff that's like a huge concern. The stuff that assists in the engineering of it, I
Hmm.
think is great. The
Hmm.
stuff that like neuters the creativity, like, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
for a bunch of tech bros to make money. That's the point of it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it is a weird line to walk because the genie is out of the bottle.
Yeah.
And I want to understand as much as I can
Hmm.
because, I mean, even when you think about the strikes, it's like, all right, AI needs to be part of this conversation, but let's really, quote unquote, know thy enemy so
Yeah.
we know what to ask for.
Right.
Because back in the day, they didn't know what to ask for and
Exactly.
they ended up getting screwed. So it's like, well, you have to understand it. And sometimes people speak about AI and it's clear they don't really know what it is. And
Yeah.
it's, anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
big
I
can
hear
of
you.
worms, big
I
can of
hear
worms.
you.
Uh, well, so what is, going on all that, what are some of the biggest challenges that a company like yours faces these days?
Oh, great question. So many. But I think we're certainly not alone in that. We self-distribute, which is not unique for independent publishing companies. But it's definitely a barrier. I mean, we don't, other than, a handful of books nationwide, bookstores, comic book stores that carry our books, we are not widely distributed in print. And so that can make things challenging. It can make folks have a harder time finding you. But distribution channels are, similar, I would imagine, to film distribution, or it's really challenging. It's hard to get distribution, and it's usually an opportunity loss in terms of getting distribution, but it's not a financial benefit to you. It's just a financial loss for you. So it's definitely a challenge, but we have mitigated that by having several digital distribution options, like Hoopla and Comics Plus, that allow us to be found globally, especially through libraries, schools, etc. And that's really kind of evened the playing field for us. A lot of people, more so than we would have ever found with print distribution, have found us digitally, and then come back to buy the print editions, which is wonderful. So it's definitely one thing that we are working towards to really mitigate barriers. But even within the library world, it's tough because a lot of times librarians are uh, bound by certain federal, state, or local laws that regulate how they're allowed to purchase books for their catalog in the library. A lot of times they can only purchase through certain distributors. And if you're not through that distributor, they cannot purchase your book. And that's really tough because, again, we self-distribute. But a lot of times, they also won't know that you exist, even if they can purchase you, unless they see you or can demonstrate that you've been found on a major review site like a school library journal or library journal. And it takes a really long lead time and a lot of money, oftentimes, to be featured on major news outlets like that. So it's, again, another barrier of you don't have the money, you don't have the big resources like a Penguin Random House or like a Scholastic. And it's another barrier that prevents you from being able to be seen, noticed, and purchased by libraries or other outlets. So it's definitely, I would say, some of the biggest barriers that we face, but we've just really had to make peace with that. And I think especially we are in an incredibly tumultuous time in the comic book industry because of distribution. I don't know how familiar you are with Diamond, but Diamond Distributors was the sole monolith distribution company for comics for the longest time, until it had to close its doors the week that the pandemic hit. They just couldn't financially stay open. And that really caused the comics industry to splinter into 3 or 4 major distributors, many of which are major book distributors, like your Penguin Random House, Simon & Schuster, etc.
Wow. I had no idea those entities were
Yeah.
also into comics. All
I
right.
know it's, yeah, within the past like 5 years, all of this has happened, which is really interesting. But as of, these past couple months, Diamond has gone into bankruptcy, and Diamond, a lot of the, your DC, Marvel, etc., have all gone on to these other distributors, but a lot of the small independent publishers who either wouldn't be accepted by one of those publishers, or just wouldn't be financially viable there. They've stayed with Diamond, but now that Diamond is essentially going out of business, so too may a lot of these small publishers, because where else are they going to go? So it's a very up in the air time right now, let alone all of the tariffs and everything going on. So it's a really challenging, tumultuous time in the comic book industry right now.
Well, what's the key to longevity?
Oh, that's a great question. For us, I'll just speak for us. Just staying the course.
Yeah.
I think we're super fortunate in that we do, like I had mentioned earlier, we just take on what we know we can handle. And also, both my partner and I have always maintained full-time jobs. We had the tough conversation a number of years ago doing this of, comics is not going to be our full-time job ever. So we need to be okay with that. And we need to accept that if we want to keep doing this, we have to have full-time work. And that has really afforded us the opportunity to keep going, to keep publishing, to keep, promoting people. But both the comics industry and comics journalism have really been withering away. I mean, there's still so many people making comics and it's wonderful, but the number of seasoned, experienced creators who have had to take on part-time work outside of the comics industry is steadily rising, because it's really hard to make a living.
What is it like having a business endeavor with someone who you're also, romantically involved with? Like, how does that?
That's a great question. We are very fortunate that we get along really well with each other. We are best friends. We are husband and wife. We're parents to 2 twin 4-year-olds. So we spend a lot of time together. We both work from home as well. And yeah, I think we both just really love what we do. And I think we both complement each other's strengths, because he is definitely the more artistic of the two of us. So he has that right brain where I have the left brain. So I think we gel really well and tackle things differently. Certainly we have different perspectives on things because of that. And so maybe we'll have disagreements based on the approach. But I think that given our different experiences and different approaches to things, I think it really works to help both of us.
That's awesome. So in closing, tell everyone where they can learn more about Fanbase Press. Tell them where they can find everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is simply fanbasepress.com. We're on all of the social media, so just look for Fanbase Press. And you can always reach out to us. If you're a creator of any medium, please reach out to us, whether it's you're looking for a review or an interview, or if you just have questions. I'm always happy to discuss process. If there's something that I personally don't know the answer to, I will be happy to the best of my ability, connect you with someone else who does. But it's just, we love art and we love telling stories. And so for us, it's just about finding, people who share those same passions and being able to help those people as best as we can.
Barbara, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Ron. This was lovely.
That was Barbara Dillon. Check out Fanbase Press Music for the 1000 podcast is provided by Andrew Saxon. Be sure to check out his podcast, Baywatching Podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star review, would you? This is still a new show. Every 5-star review helps. And if you want to support this show on the sustainability end, you can do so over patreon.com/RonPlacone. For a Get What You Can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content, full stand-up clips not available anywhere else, the 1000 episodes before they're released to the public. I have a new product launching soon that I'm real excited about that's going to be included for patrons. And we do a Zoom hangout once a month. It's a really cool community. You can learn more about that, patreon.com/RonPlacone. All right, 83. We are getting close to the year of my birth. Man, that's all right. That's where we're at. 1983. We're climbing to, we're millennials now. This show is a millennial, which I am a millennial. See you next week. Hey guys, Ron Placone here. Take your own 1000 challenge. No, you don't need to interview 1,000 people, although if you want to do that, go for it. Your 1000 challenge can be whatever you want. Maybe you want to call a friend out of the blue once a week. Maybe you want to read a book every month. Maybe you want to start a different garden every season. I guess that might be dependent on where you live. Look, the point of the challenge is taking on an endeavor that enriches your life in some way, and it can be measured. And then, of course, you do it regularly. That's what 1000 is doing for me, and hopefully for you too. The main reason for this podcast and every podcast I've ever done is to build community. So take your own challenge. Then join our Facebook group. It's called 1000 What's Your Challenge? ? That's 1000 What's Your Challenge ? And post about what your 1000 challenge is and the progress you're making. All I ask is that people be encouraging of each other's challenges. This is personal and vulnerable, so be cool. There's enough negativity on social media. We don't need to add to it. For those of you who aren't on Facebook, hopefully in the future we'll be expanding to places like Discord, Reddit, but for now, we're starting on Facebook. And again, that Facebook group is called 1000 What's Your Challenge? See you there.